Gurus Mojiba, Ibai. We pay homage to all of the gurus, great mystics, sages, seers, adepts, and lovers of the Dharma from time immemorial. Libations. Ego Mojiba, Ibai. We pay homage to our spiritual ancestors and predecessors who have gone before us, who have traveled this journey, this path, and laid the way for us to follow them, who have loved us and left us their legacy of love, their spiritual DNA, and the means by which we too may become self and God realized in this very lifetime, not for our sakes, but for the sakes of all sentient beings. Libations. Sangha Mojiba, Ibai. We pay homage to all the great spiritual traditions that have gone before us, paved the way for us, and demonstrated the Dharma, who have preserved the Dharma in its various forms and worked in great cooperation on behalf of the Dharma giver. We thank you, and we work effortlessly to walk in your footsteps so that we too may become a great spiritual tradition, not only for our sakes, but for the sakes of all sentient beings. Libations. Guru Mojiba. We pay homage to our beloved Huzur Maharaj Charan Singh Ji. We pay homage to his sons, his Gurumukhs, Bhagwan wa Afrika, Gurinder Singh. We thank you for leaving them to us, for demonstrating your legacy of love, the path and the journey by which we too may become self and God realized in this very lifetime, not only for our sakes, but for the sakes of all sentient beings. Libation.
Say he's awesome. That's a big word to me. We didn't say he was one, I said that he was awesome. Where I came from, they just said he was wonderful. He's wonderful, he's wonderful, he's wonderful. He is He is wonderful. Believe me when I tell you, he's wonderful. Wonderful. Is wonderful. Hey! Hey, hey, hey! He is so wonderful. The Lord been so wonderful to me. Lean over there and tell somebody that the Lord is my shepherd. He is my God. Wonderful. He's wonderful. Just think about what the Lord has done for you. The Lord is so wonderful. He's wonderful. Hey! The Lord, he's been so wonderful to me. For when I am sad, to him I can go. No other one can cheer me so. I'm gonna pray his holy wonderful. 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 He is wonderful. The Lord, he's so wonderful to me. For it is no secret what God can do. And what he done for others, how many of you believe that? He'll do the same thing for you. And I'm gonna praise his holy name. Hallelujah. For he is wonderful. I'm gonna leave you with it. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. For you've been so wonderful. For it is no secret what God can do. And what he done for us, the Lord will do the same thing for you. And you ought to get praise. Just close it out right there.
Yes.
I'm so happy to be on this side of the ground. It's a blessing to me. Every day that I see, I could have been dead and gone. I'm not happy to be free, but I've been living in love. I'm so happy to be. I'm so happy to be on this side of the ground. It's a blessing to me. Every day that I see, I could have been dead and gone. I don't have to be free. I've been living in love. I'm so happy to be. I'm so happy to be. Feeling good in my soul. I've got love in my heart. I've got love in my home. Said I really wish you could see it. My beautiful family. Nobody's so blessed as me. I'm so happy. Looking at the future, 'cause it's shining so bright. And my soul is taken, going straight to the light. I know the road can get long, and it gets hard to see. That's when I sing my song, this here melody. I'm so happy to be on this side of the ground. It's a blessing to be sunshine. Every day that I see, I could have been dead and gone. I don't have to be free. I've been living in love. I'm so happy to be on this side of the ground. It's a blessing to be feeling every day that I see. I could have been dead and gone. I don't have to be free. I've been living in love. I'm so happy to be on this side of the ground. It's a blessing to be. Every day that I see, I could have been dead and gone. I don't have to be free. I've been living in love. I'm so
Give Grace a clap. You know, for all of the various reasons one can try to concoct
all the various strategies that one can pursue in this search for happiness, the most direct path to happiness is to simply be happy you're alive. Happy that you are. Because you know you didn't have to be. And there's nothing in the universe or in the scheme of things that mandates your existence, you see. You are here by grace. You should be happy merely because you are. You see. This is the great secret. Happiness ultimately is just this realization of the non-necessity of your own existence. You see. You didn't have to be here. You are here by grace. And just the sheer fact that you exist should swoon you into ecstasy. So be happy. No matter what else is going on in your life, if you can just remember the grace that is responsible for your being here, you will be able to be happy, even in the midst of your trials and tribulations, you see. Once this has been understood, then you have been able to step into a place that the Sufi mystics call fana, a space in consciousness where there is a complete annihilation of the burden of self-concern. And in this place, there's simply happiness bubbling up in you. Just happy. From the sheer fact that I am. So, I'm happy. Are you happy? So I don't have anything particular on my agenda. So today we are free to relax and we can consider what's ever on your heart. Anything you like.
Pal back there. All the way in the back.
Pal.
Why don't you, oh, I stole one of your books.
Stand up, I can't see.
Oh, I stole one of your books by Ali Da, and it talks about how, reality is the way. And I didn't get a chance to read it more in depth because you told me to put it down. Can you kind of elaborate on how reality is the way and how it is conversant with your spiritual practice?
Acha. The teachings that all of these mystics have come to give since time immemorial, beginning with the great pharaonic mystics of Kemet and Nubia and other places in Africa, all the way down to Adida. The teachings are one and the same. These mystics come and they give us the teachings of reality, the way reality is. The way to live, therefore, is to live according to the way things really are, i.e. to live in reality. The saints and mystics say that our sorrow, our suffering, what steals from us the happiness that we're seeking is our replacing reality with our own fiction, you see, our own storyline, our own narrative, what they have called Maya, you see. Not seeing things the way things really are, we come into wrong relationship with reality. Suffering is a sign that you are in wrong relationship with reality. You are out of ma'at, as the Pharaonic mystics called it, you see. Hence you suffer. It's like sticking your hand in fire under the presumption that fire don't burn, when the reality is fire burns, you see. And as long as you persist in your presumption, your ambition for fire not to burn, you will go on suffering every time you stick your hand in it. Now, this is a very simplistic metaphor, but essentially it comes down to the same thing. The way to live is to live in harmony with and in submission to reality. And so the saints and mystics come and articulate that reality. A reality that is always already the case in our experience. It's just that we don't examine our own experience. Otherwise, there will be no problem with adapting to reality. We don't look at how we're living. So the mystics points out the reality to us. That's their great revelation. And one of the realities that the saints come and point out to us is the impermanent nature of things here. Nothing here lasts. Everything changes. Everything is in flux. You see, nothing can be possessed. But if you are not seeing the impermanent nature of things, then you will go on clinging, trying to possess, trying to control, and you will suffer because you against reality spells defeat. And that's how you feel in your life. You feel defeated. You feel like nothing is going my way. I can't get anything to work right. Because you are trying to somehow control reality. How will you do that? You see? And so this is the message since time immemorial. It is the way of reality. When you live the way of reality, then you are happy. There is no disappointment when things disappear from your life. This is how it is. In fact, this is how it should be. There is no protest in you. You see the wisdom in impermanence, you see. There's a great wisdom that is running this thing, you see. You begin to align your life with the divine process, you see. And even you then realize you're not permanent either, you see. It's not that just whatever you are perceiving through your physical senses is impermanent. That's an easy observation to make. But you must also see that you too, that which you are calling me, is not permanent. It too is a part of the great process, you see. So there is no clinging, even to your own life. Now this is profound. Dying becomes all right. It's not the fact that you're going to die, it's how you're going to die. You see, your focus shifts. You are no longer involved in the futile ambition of becoming immortal in this body. This body is not immortal. So once you have been able to see not only the impermanent nature of perceived reality, that part of reality that can be perceived with the senses. And remember, that part of reality that can be perceived by your senses, what we call conditional reality, is just a hair in an ocean. if you subtract the entire physical universe and all of its dimensions, the sum of reality will hardly be affected at all. What you are seeing through your senses is not even real at all. Yes, Mimi.
Say
The senses deceive you. You see. Now you look up at the sky, it looks blue to your senses, but you know it's not blue. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Now sitting here, you feel that you're stationary. This planet is whirling through space at an incredible speed. You're not having any sensation of it. The body is too gross to pick up that movement. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Hmm? So the senses do not deliver reality, they filter reality. Please make a note. That's its function. It limits the experience of that which can be experienced. It doesn't report it. Hence the mystics and saints say all the time that you must withdraw the senses. You see, that is part of the discipline. You must withdraw your attention out of the senses if you want to see things the way things really are, because your senses will always deliver to you an illusion. You see. Now you're looking at this body, it looks solid, it has a color, it has volume, etc. Pure illusion. Put it under a microscope, you'll see I am nothing but empty space here. But your ability to see with your physical eyes is not powerful enough to see things the way things really are. Now those rascals who were there in Kemet was able to see a representation of what seeing looks like in the statues of the various Pharaonic mystics and sages, you see. You will recall that they were seeing something beyond the senses. There's a kind of look that these seers seem to have, where they're seeing past the illusion of the senses, you see. That's what Maya is. Maya is conclusion that you come to about reality based on the report of your senses. That is Maya, you see. Maya is not a philosophical concept that you are suffering from. Maya is inherent in your limitation of only being able to see that which can be seen by the physical eyes and hear that which can be heard by the physical ears, you see. Yes, beloved?
You talked about in the past various addictions, drug addiction, shopping, watching TV. There's a gamut. How does that fit into what you're saying? Because I guess in many instances those things numb even the filtered reality.
Yes. Yeah, it compounds it even more. You see, even the senses in their natural states are limited. They're made even more limited by what we do thereafter with them, you see. So even though you may have 20/20 vision, but you have been reckless in taking care of your eyesight, then you lose even that ability. So you even become more mired, you see, in your Maya. And so that is why the saints talk about a process of purification, the purification of the senses, you see. A lot of the disciplines is purely for the purification of the senses, principally vegetarianism, you see, which has nothing to do with achieving some kind of immortal lifetime in this physical body. It's a process of purification. Fasting is a process of purification, so forth and so on. So you see these kind of peripheral disciplines a part of the sadhana of all authentic realizers in their spiritual career, you see. It's just a matter of purifying the senses, you see, and then transcending them altogether, you see. You see, you have the ability to see independent of your physical lives. You see in dreams, for instance. Okay. So the ability to see is not something that arises by virtue of the use of your eye. The same is the case with every one of your senses. There are the sense organs, and then there's the sensory system of perception, which exists independent of the organs. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. That's the astral level of one's being. You see, where you're no longer dependent upon these eyes in order to see. You become clairvoyant. You see? Seeing without eyes, physical eyes. You see? And that itself is perhaps interesting, but that's not the ultimate goal of the spiritual path, you see. Not to simply enjoy that kind of siddhi, that kind of ability. A lot of people confuse this kind of recovery of the ability to function beyond the limitation of the physical organs as being the goal and aim of spiritual practice, and that is not its aim, you see. Even what you are seeing beyond the limits of your physical senses, that too is impermanent, and that does not last, you see. That is also Maya. So addictions and things of that nature, shopping, everything that you do affects your whole mind, body, apparatus, you see. Much more can be said about it, but you get the point. So this reality, the principle of reality, become the basis of all of the Dhamma. All of the Dhamma that has been spoken by these great sages across all time, all culture, and since before the first time has been an articulation to us of reality. This is how it is, you see. This is how it is. Nothing lasts. There's another aspect of reality too, based on the reality of impermanence. Therefore, nothing can be the source of any lasting happiness, by definition, because if your happiness is based on your having, possessing, interacting with anything or anyone, that anything or anyone is impermanent. So any happiness that you're deriving from them is therefore also impermanent, you see? And so the mystic point that out, that there is no lasting happiness that can be found within the realm of the impermanence, you see? Just that understanding relieves you of a lot of unnecessary suffering, because you are in some situation or some circumstance, you're getting a little pleasure, you're getting a little hit, you're finding a little consolation, and you're expecting, even hoping that this will last forever, and it's not going to last forever. And then when it comes to an end, as it must, then your joy is replaced by great suffering, great sorrow, great upset. So the mystics come and they give us insight into the reality of what is and what is not happiness, you see. They even point out, you see, pal, that happiness is not the result of something that you do in the world. It's not the result of something that you get. Happiness is a sheer act of will, period. See? Happiness is a realization. Happiness is a state of consciousness based on the understanding of reality. What has been called radical understanding. I believe that is an Adida term that he popularized, you see. This radical understanding of the way things really are. Now, the interesting question is that why are we in rebellion against reality? Because that's all your suffering is. You are in rebellion against reality. What's up with that? I mean, that is what is to be expected. That's the addiction. that must be overcome, you see.
And that's the why I'm asking, what's underneath that?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Oh, yes.
There is this rebellion against reality. And this is what you must inspect in yourself. This is what you must find out about yourself. You are living in rebellion against reality. Your suffering is a consequence of your rebellion against reality. The ancient Pharaonic mystic called that thing in you set. Mm-hmm. And you recall when we visited one of the temples, you see, of Sobek, the emphasis was on overcoming that Setian quality in you, that ignorance, you see, that unwillingness to surrender, you see. You're at war with God, aren't you? Think you got any chance of winning that fight? But it is this rebellion in you, this Sethian quality in you that you must examine. And see in yourself, locate in yourself the source of your rebellion, the psychological source of your rebellion, the intellectual source of your rebellion, the cultural source of your rebellion. This rebellious nature in you has many different streams, you see. And you must examine it. What is it about you that makes you unwilling to submit to reality? I think this will be an interesting discussion, don't you? You got to find that out about yourself. Now, what is it? Yes, beloved.
The way you were raised.
Yeah, that could have something to do with it. You see, the way you were raised, the way you were conditioned, the way you was socialized, you see. Particularly in these modern times, you know, with the rise of modernity and post-modernity, the presumption is that you somehow are in charge of the world. You're in charge of your life. You're in charge of this kind of radical individualism, you see, right? Yeah. But not even your destiny. You figure that I can override destiny. Whatever I want to do, I can do, etc., etc., you see. This arrogating to yourself, a kind of power that in reality you don't possess, you see. So yes, our culture can create a kind of psychological disposition to be rebellious, to authority. Here in the West, for instance, everybody's in rebellion with authority. That's one of the principal things you will see that underpins and anchors your rebellious disposition with reality and God, you see. You simply are a rebel against all authority. You see? You are anti-authority. Even to the point of being anti-nature. You see? We don't have to keep the water clean. We don't have to take care of the environment, the ecosystem, damn that. You see my point? I do not have to submit to that. Arrogance. Don't you agree?
Yes, sir.
Pure, unadulterated arrogance. With a healthy dose of ignorance, you see. But it manifests itself in this anti-authority mentality that characterizes modernity and post-modernity, you see? Where you figure that your opinion about nuclear physics is equal to the opinion of Albert Einstein. It is not equal to it, you see? This kind of exaggerated egalitarianism, you see? Where you can elevate your opinion about matters and give it as much weight and import as a Buddha. You're not a Buddha. Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
You're not Mahavira. You're not Jesus. You're not Muhammad. You see. You're not a Pharaoh Pepe. And to elevate yourself beyond the necessity of submitting to authority becomes the basis of a life of reckless rebellion. And you're rebellious. You're like a teenager. You see, you're still a teenager. You're at the teenage level of life. You have not become an adult yet. That's what teenagers do. They rebel against authority. And what is the ultimate authority in the universe? Reality. Call it God, whatever you want, but you're in rebellion against that too. You see? Is that all right?
Yes.
You want things to last forever. Authority says nothing lasts forever. Now you can't get with that. So you trying to start a revolution and a rebellion to overthrow the nature of impermanence. You see? Futile ambition. Yes, beloved.
Now, you spoke of what is impermanent and not lasting, but still at the same time, I thought that there was something that was permanent and lasting. And how do we identify with that if we are trying to identify with the understanding that we are not permanent? Because I think that type of confusion leads to the rebelliousness.
Yes, absolutely. You see, as long as you identify with being your body-mind, you identify with that which is fundamentally impermanent, you see. But that which is aware of this body-mind itself, that is not in time, that is not in space, that is prior to, you see. You are that. So you're absolutely right. The function of the spiritual process is to help shift this identification. You see. Because as long as you identify it, you see, naturally you're going to fight for your life because you really feel this is who I am and what I am. This is all that I am. Just this, slab of meat, its memories, et cetera, right? So you're going to fight like hell. You see. But when there is the realization that what you fundamentally are, in essence, is just pure consciousness itself. And that this body-mind is just another experience arising in consciousness. And like all other experiences, it comes and goes, you see. The metaphor that the ancient mystics used would be the sky. For instance, you see clouds are moving through the sky, but the sky is always there, you see. Well, there's something like that about you that is always here, that does not come and go, but things come and go in it. And to be able to make that shift in your gestalt is one of the functions of meditation, you see. And it's not arrived at through an argument. You see, this is a philosophical argument. Meditation delivers the direct experience of being more than this body-mind, you see. You have to sit, go through the ordeal. You see, it's an existential experience, not an intellectual one, you see. And you actually sit down and you have the experience of being just consciousness itself, you see. It's not a conclusion that you come to at the end of a logical argument, you see. That's philosophy, that's psychology. It doesn't transform your life, you see. And to be able to have that direct experience of being just pure consciousness itself, this that you call me, i.e. your body, mind, emotions, and feeling, all that has to come to an end. But the mystics call dying while living. In fact, again, those of you who were there with us in Kemet couldn't help but notice that if there was anything that the Pharaonic mystic taught, it was that you must die while living. You must enter into the duat, as they call it, now, while living. You see, here are the means by which that can be achieved. And they built incredible centers that house profound knowledge and provided you with extraordinary support to accomplish just that one thing. You can't become a hortus, an enlightened being, until you die from your Osirian nature, you see? And if you rightly read the pyramid text and so forth and so on, what you're really reading and witnessing is the king going into the duat, the king dying while living through the spiritual process, and then arising from that death, hortus, enlightened, you see? So it's a real ordeal, you see? It's something that you really have to undergo. But you can't do it in your imagination. You follow me? So it's not going to be something that you can sit down and say, I get some consciousness. You see, it's not going to work like that. You really have to die. You see, you have to lose the entire experience of being this body mind and yet remain fully conscious. And then you're there. Something else to say about it? You all are asking interesting questions today. So again, pal, the theme of all of the teachings of the mystics is reality. And submitting to and surrendering to reality, rather than to perpetuate this kind of pattern of rebellion. You see? Now you don't want things to be the way they are. This is the way they are. You don't want this person to be the way they are. This is how this person is. That's reality. Get with it. You follow me? You can tell a person who is wallowing in this kind of adolescent mentality that is the source of your rebellion against reality, because they're always complaining. Follow me? Constantly complaining, bitching, moaning, and finding fault with everyone. This is a pain in the ass teenager at work. Now this is the truth. And we all do it, so you know, you can forget about that person you were thinking about. You said, yeah, it's like that's just like so-and-so, so-and-so. No, I'm not talking about so-and-so, so-and-so. If you did that, you were guilty. Stay out the box. Talking about you. It's what you do. Now, you don't call it complaining, you call it telling it like it is.
Keeping it real.
Yes. That ain't objective. That's rebellion. Dressed up as if it is intelligent. That's not intelligence. Set the end. One of the beautiful things that come out of the spiritual tradition of Islam, you see, is the very concept of submission. You see. I mean, that's what Islam was based on in its original formulation, submission. It had nothing to do with political conquest of lands and propaganda and ideology. You see, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had a very simple practice. Submit. The sadhana of Muhammad was submission. Later they maybe added some Ramadan, some this and some that, but initially you see just surrender. And surrender to what? Reality. Reality is God. Make a note. And you must surrender. You must overcome this Sethian and rebellious nature of yours that has as Utamari pointed out, been basically a product of how you've been raised, parented, cultured, socialized. You see, a victim of the propaganda of modernity, you see. That you ain't gotta do nothing nobody tell you. That's bullshit. It really is. And out of that mentality, you go to a job, you can't do what the boss say, you wind up unemployed. Chronically, because you can't do what nobody tells you to do. You see? You are working on a false presumption that I ain't gotta do what nobody tells me to do. It's not true. It's not real. Are you following my argument? Yes. I'm not getting too raw.
Come on.
But I actually like it like that. That's what it is. You get into a marriage, now you don't want to do what your wife tells you, or you want to do what your husband tells you. Okay, you're going to have problems. And why is that? Because can't nobody tell me what to do. You understand what I'm saying? It's problematic. And most of your suffering is the result of your trying to avoid submission to authority, fundamentally. You don't even want to do what your body tells you to do. Is that about right? Body say, I'm tired, I need some rest. You say, no, we gonna party. We another drink about 10 times. Damn this body. What I want to do. I ain't gonna tell me what to do. So do you understand what I'm saying? Yes. This rebellion against authority goes to the heart of all of your problems and sorrows and suffering that you are having in the world and on the path. Make a note. And that's why it's so difficult sometimes, you see, in the beginning to get into right relationship with the guru, because we ain't used to doing what nobody tells us. It's just not our nature, you know. So the guru said, do this. Oh, wait, I got to think about that. That might interfere with what I want to do, you see. So we don't want to do what the doctor tells us to do. We don't want to do what our teachers tell us to do. You don't want to do what the boss tells you what to do. You don't want to do what your husband, your wife, you don't want to do what nobody tells you. I call you to inspect that about yourself. Inspect that about yourself. Find out something about that. Don't glorify it. Because you people glorify that. You know what I mean? I'm a rebel. Maverick, like John McCain, y'all. Got a lot of Republicans in here. Huh? Rebel. Maverick. Nobody tells me what to do. So you got to consider all of that. Now we're being humorous about it, but I'm deadly serious about it. Yes, beloved.
Well, I was wondering, when do you start using your own discrimination? I mean, your parents could bring you up to be a racist.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, you know, that's not really rebelling against authority if you don't want to do what they said.
Yes.
It's more using your own discrimination. So.
Yes. Yeah, discrimination is a very important part in the process. You're absolutely right. I don't mean to suggest that you blindly follow authority. You follow it with discrimination. I was simply addressing that even when the authority is right, you don't follow it. Even when your discriminative faculties says, yes, I should do this. Yes, it is in my best interest. You still don't do it, you see. I was speaking to that kind of rebellion, but certainly it does not mean that one should not bring discrimination into it. In fact, the more intelligent you are, the easier it is to surrender. It's just the opposite of what people think. Surrender to truth is an act of profound intelligence, discrimination. But see, if you can't discriminate the real from the unreal, if you can't discriminate and discern the difference between what is true and what is not true, you can't get with the truth. Are you with me? You can't discriminate. Hmm? You see. So those early hearers of the Dhamma, you see, they came into the presence of the Buddha. You see, immensely intelligent, Mahakashyapa, Sariputta, these were geniuses. And they could see, this is the truth. They had that ability to discern, you see? And therefore they could submit. They could recognize, you follow me? Discrimination gives you the ability to recognize truth. Ultimately, you follow me? And there is even the role of faith, because there's some things that authority will tell you that you can't really understand. Are you with me? You really can't. And then you have to trust. But I appreciate your point, Brian Saab, you see. Yes, it is this discrimination that liberates you from tyranny. So all of that factors in. My conversation with you all this evening, though, is really about that part of you, your psyche, that part of your own psychology that is characterized by this Setian quality, this kind of rebellious nature against authority. It is this kind of rebellious, non-discriminatory behavior that has cut mankind off from the sources of wisdom. Historically, sages, gurus, shamans, mystics have always been the sources of the wisdom in any given culture, at any given time, you see. In this modern time that we live in, you see, the presumption is that that's no longer necessary to us, that I can become enlightened on my own bootstraps, you see. Or worse, I am already enlightened. You see my point? And so ultimately this faculty of discrimination has to be turned on our own self. You see? We must become self-discriminating. We must turn it on ourselves. And then follow the way of reality. You see? Now if our parents are teaching us sexism, racism, you know, intolerance, tribalism, you see, all those kind of things. And if we have the discriminative ability to see this is not reality, you follow me? There is no distinction between people, you follow me? If we can see that, you see, then we are able to follow the authority of that truth. It's still an authority, you see. So it gets to be really interesting. So each one of us have to really sit with our own life and not really deal with the hypothetical, you see my point? But deal with what is really the case, right? I mean, there is some value in hypothetical analysis, but, you know, the real payoff comes only when we look at what is actually the case, you know? And then looking at that. And really see to what degree your life is a life based on rebellion. I mean, really examine that. I mean, really, really look into that. Is the conflict you having with your husband and wife fundamentally grounded in this rebellious nature of yours? your willingness to submit to anybody else's authority. I don't mean to submit to a person abuse. That should be clear. Are you with me? I'm not talking about that. And see how that same pattern in your human relationships is reflected in your relationship to God. I know God wouldn't want me to do this, but shit, you know, do it anyway. Same mentality. Operating in your kitchen. Can't be surrendered. Can't bow down. Can't submit. One of the interesting things that we've discovered in our journey there in Kemet was that, you know, just to go into the sanctuary in these pyramids required what? You had to bow down. You see, I remember Yah and I was laughing about that teaching being made just perfectly obvious, wasn't it? You went in there, if you couldn't bow down. First of all, if you couldn't bow down, you couldn't even go into the damn place. It required bowing down from the get. It wasn't something you would do later on down the road. You had to bow down from the very beginning of the journey. Is that about right?
Yes.
You're not going to enter into the holies of holies. You see my point? Unless you can bow down. And stay bowed down. Because what happened if you raised your head on that passage?
Knock yourself out.
Knock yourself out. So that was a great metaphor, wasn't it, for the path. And you must really address this consideration that I'm presenting to you. You must really look into yourself and might and living and see if you are fundamentally in rebellion against reality. So you see, pal, the mystics come and they help cultivate discrimination. Vavika is what we call it, you see. Because we have none. That's why we're a victim of Maya. We have no Vavika. Without Vavika, there's no defense against Maya. You are, by definition, going to be deluded. You see. So the saints and sages give us the gift of their satsang, their discourses, their written and spoken words, and so forth and so on. All of that is purpose to cultivate so that you see, this faculty of discrimination. So that you can begin to discern that which is real from that which is not real. That which is true from that which is not true. That which is important from that which is just pure bullshit. You must be able to, at some point, cultivate the ability to make such discriminations. Otherwise, how would you submit to reality if you can't even see reality, you see? You will always only be submitting to an illusion somewhere. I like this conversation. Y'all like this?
Yes.
Yes, beloved.
Matt, can you go deeper into how to do samyama? Because we don't know how to think. You know, we don't, well, I'm saying we, I don't.
That's progress. You know, really, to tell you the truth, beloved, samyama is more like paying attention than it is going through any kind of syllogism. It's more like listening. It's more like a kind of uninterrupted paying of attention. And then the truth is revealed. You know, it's more like that. Samyama, the word itself, simply means holding your attention, fixing your attention on something that you want to know until that thing or something reveals the truth to you. It's more like maintaining that posture that has to be maintained for the revelation to occur. You see, it's more like that rather than you generating some mental activity that results in a revelation. It's more like just sitting with it, staying focused. Until the thing reveals the truth. In that sense, it's very similar to what scientists do. You know, the principal method in science is observation. They observe. They set up experiments that fundamentally observe. So you observe the plant, or whatever the subject is, and through that process of observation, you begin to see how a flower blooms. You don't have to make that up. You simply watch it. And so you can pick up literally any object or thing or topic for that matter and then hold it. Einstein, for instance, talks about, you know, getting into a posture and waiting. He'd wait a couple of years for relativity to come through. You see, artists talk about it. Musicians talk about it. They get into a kind of state and then something breaks into them, comes into them. You see, Sanyama is more like that, you see, than it is like a process of reasoning, you see. Although reasoning can play a role to some degree, but at some point it can only carry you so far. And then you have to be vigilant. Wait on it. In the Bible, you see, that's why they said, be still. And then you will know, be still. Just stay focused, just stay open. And it comes. Just like great works of art come. Poetry comes like that. But you must be committed to do what is required for that. So even in the sense of just sitting and reflecting, you see, just sitting quietly and just letting, and just reflecting. Reflecting is not even so much a thinking, it's a watching. And just looking, let your life just roll up before your eyes and look at it. Just look at it. Look at all your relationships. Just start standing them up. From your puppy love all the way up to your most recent divorce. You will see a pattern. You'll see a pattern begin to emerge. You'll begin to understand something. You see, understanding is a product of observation more than it is a product of logic and reason. Although logic and reason becomes a good tool to express what you've understood, you know. As Socrates says, there's a realm of wisdom that is denied the logician. The logician can't even get there. Just can't get there. But you just look. You start looking at what you're doing with your life. What have you done with your life? Start looking at that. And then consider it. Have what you've done with your life and are still doing with your life, does that strike you as being the purpose of your life? Do you think that's what you were given existence to do? To pay your telephone bill? You think that's all this is about? I mean, you really have to kind of put yourself at risk of learning the truth. You know, the thirst for truth is risky business, man. It'll mess you up. Yeah, because, you know, in fact, that's one of the reasons why the guru is so necessary, because you start seeing stuff about yourself, you get all depressed. Some people become, you know, they ready to blow their brains out because they didn't realize they were that messed up. You know, and the guru has to hold you. It's all right. Yeah, you know. You see, be depressive. The dark night of the soul.
Yes.
You heard about it, right?
Yes.
When you start coming into revelations about yourself, stuff you start finding out about yourself that ain't pretty. Yes, beloved.
When you spoke on looking at reality, that was very profound, because once you look at reality, then you, it seemed like you have to take responsibility. Because now there was a reality, and this was very shocking to me, and I just wanted to share this with you, with paying the bill. I was paying this light bill. And I said, where is this money going, and what are they doing with these electricity that's free? And then when I followed what I was doing, contributing to a military nuclear institution where they make nuclear bombs and they make all these weaponry, plus they give you a light bulb. And I said, well, what's my relationship to creating bombs?
Your karma, what's your karma in it?
I'm creating bombs.
Yeah.
But is that real, or am I just paying my light bill?
Well, what do you think?
Well,
they're both real, aren't they?
They're both real.
Yeah. And not only that, you see, just in the time you spoke that, you killed billions of germs, microbes. You see. See, this is the reality of the place we're in. You see. Everyone is killing down here. Nobody's hands are clean. You follow me? And if nothing else, that humbles you, doesn't it? The realization that you've been financing the United States Army, dropping bombs on innocent people somewhere around the world, right? Don't that humble you? Don't that kind of take you off your high horse? But this is the nature of the place we're in, you see. Everything that comes in here has to get killed. This is the law. Everything has to get killed. Everything must die in order for there to be growth, including you. It humbles you. You follow me? I'm not this saintly person, you see, that I have concocted myself to be. It gives you some humility. Kabir Sahib, great medieval mystic out of India, Kabir Sahib says that when he had an insight into how he had actually lived, in one of his poems he makes a claim that in this entire creation, in the history of the world, there's never been anyone as wretched as he, you see. Now, of course, he wasn't just speaking self-contempt, you see. He's actually saw something, you see. And that revelation is part of what makes you bow down. You see my point? It's part of what enables you to surrender. Because you can't surrender if you're not humbled. Something in you got to get humbled. The mystics call it denta. You see, denta, humility. You got to get humbled. Humility comes from a realization that you have about yourself. It's not what somebody done told you about it. Because people have been telling you you're an asshole for years. Humility arose in you. Are you with me? Because you ain't saw it. But when you see it, then some humility begins to arise in you. Something in you starts softening. You see? And this humility is a prerequisite for spiritual development. It is the first requirement for spiritual development. You got to become humble as a result of this radical self-observation. That's the purpose. If your self-observation has not resulted in the rise of humility in you, then it has not been really self-observation. Are you with me? Yes. But I guarantee you, if you really look at yourself, you're going to see something about what you done did and said and how you have lived that's going to break your heart.
Yes.
I guarantee it. You're going to see something about yourself that will make you sick
Yes.
to your stomach.
Yes.
For real.
That's right.
Hmm? And that's going to humble you. You see. And until that happens, you see, you will still be running off of your ego mythology. Hmm? That's arrogated to yourself all kinds of qualities and virtues that in reality you don't possess. You don't possess none of that stuff. You see, I get well along with people. You don't get along with nobody. You see, you've been in 15 relationships in the last 3 years. You see my point? I'm very loving. I'm a loving person. There's no evidence in your life anywhere where you've done anything like loving. Nobody you've been with has had the experience of you loving them. They've had the experience of you criticizing them, finding fault with them. You see my point? But they ain't had no experience of being loved by you. Just your imagination. It's your propaganda, your illusion. That's all. That's all. That humbles you, you see. It is a real ordeal to go through. That is the dark night. Yes, beloved.
Could you expound for me on love or loving oneself?
Mm-hmm. You have to, the first prerequisite is that you got to know yourself. Loving yourself. Is very different from what people presume. Loving yourself can often take the form of allowing yourself to go through those experiences that will be best for your soul. To suffer, going through ordeals that will ultimately raise you to a higher spiritual level. Sometimes loving yourself requires that you submit to suffering. You follow me? Because that suffering will purify you. But ultimately, real love for self cannot happen until there is self-realization. Now that's the truth. When there is self-realization, in that same moment, authentic love for self arises. Somewhere in one of the shastras, in the Astavakta Gita, there's a few statements there made by Janaka when he was brought to the state of self-realization by his guru, Savaka. And you can look that up on the internet and read it for yourself, but he says something like, what a glorious being I am. You see, glory be unto me. When one realizes oneself, things come out of one's mouth that almost sound blasphemous, you see. It is considered blasphemous by the unrealized, you see. When Al-Halaj Mansour had self-realization, what came out of his mouth resulted in him being martyred. But what else could he say other than, I'm God? You see. What a incredible thing I am, you see. What a magnificent, glorious being I am, you see. Aham Brahmasmi. The Buddha attained nirvana, and it may even sound arrogant, but Buddha said there ain't never been nobody like me. Ever appeared in the realm of conditional reality. I say, go on, Buddha. Wow. You see. So this business about love of self is a profound business. And it depends on your point of view and how you define yourself. Now there's a lot of psychological things that can be said about that, but that might take us far afield. So I'm trying to narrow the conversation. When people normally talk about self-love in the conventional sense of the word, it's really about having some kind of self-appreciation, some kind of appreciation for your life, you know what I mean? If you love yourself and you love the life you've been given, you see that, how does that look in the way you live? Does your life reflect, does your living reflect a kind of self-respect? That is appropriate. Psychologically, if you love yourself, why are you living in a way that is only hurting you? If you love yourself. So it gets to be really interesting. So you can holler at me later. We'll go through all of that. Something else to say here? Yes, young man, the other young man, my young man. Stand up so the law can see you.
What happens after you die?
Oh, you're gonna have to ask your mama that. What happens after you die is the same thing that is happening now. The only difference is you don't have a body. See. Death is not the end of life. Death is just another phase of life. But it's life without a body mind. It's life without an instrument. after death, you're no longer able to live in this level of reality that we call the world. You are confined to that reality that is in your own mind. You're confined to your own mind. So all that stuff you got in your mind, well, that's where you're going to be. The realm of your own mind. And that's going to be hell. You see? You see, while you're alive and living, you make your mind. When you're dead, the mind makes you. That's what happens. And that's what happens. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bummer. It depends on what you do with your life. Because how you live now will generate the reality you will experience after death. All the things that you value in now, pursuing now, all of that is going to play a role when you enter into the bardo of death, the first phase of it. Now you like your pizza and your beer. You still going to like it, except you ain't going to have nobody to get it. You're going to be left with all of the same desires you got now. All of them. But you will have no means to fulfill them. That's going to be hell. That's going to be hell. All of them. Every last one. Yes, beloved.
So, if I'm understanding this, then the task is to rise above desire?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, the Buddhas pointed that out over 2,500 years ago when he revealed to those who were there to hear him that the cause of suffering is Krishna, desires. Suffering is the failure or inability to fulfill a desire. That's what suffering is. And the Buddha went on and he said, well, suffering can be brought to an end. And the way it's brought to an end is by surrendering and having no desires, transcending it. Just moving into a state of profound acceptance. Now, his argument is a lot more sophisticated than what I'm reducing it to here for the purpose of responding to your question, but essentially that's what it is.
So basically, if you do that, then you're
Free.
free and in a state of purity,
Sure.
or whatever you want
Sure,
to call it.
sure,
And
sure.
therefore, after life, then
Right. No problem.
no problem.
No problem. Now, becoming desirous does not mean life becomes dry, empty, and without satisfaction or fulfillment. No, it just comes naturally. Whatever comes, you enjoy. I mean, it's a very different thing. Desire is a very different state of mind. It's a very different mentality operating.
But you're talking about clinging, aren't you?
It's clinging, desiring. It's like, it's a need connection that you have with the world. Are you with me? So the desire is like, for instance, I need this in order for me to be happy. Now, once you have made being happy conditional on having this or that thing, until you get this or that thing, you will not allow yourself to be happy. You yourself rob yourself of happiness by putting a condition on it. Desires are the set of conditions we put on our own happiness. Now I say that I desire to have a brand new Mercedes. If I could just get me a brand new Mercedes, I'll be happy. See, I set it up in my mind. I can really be happy right now, but I'm gonna postpone my happiness until I get this Mercedes. And once I get this Mercedes, then I'm gonna allow myself to be happy. But I could allow myself to be happy without all those car notes. Are you with me?